fellow Toastmasters. My responsibility is to count say any fillers words, and finally I'll give the report at the end of the meeting.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Let's go back to sharing screen here. All right. And then Wai Ming, we have timer?
Yes, Miss Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I'm timer today, so I'm going to time all the prepared speeches, the evaluation, as well as table topics. The speeches that will confirm the time. Harun is 79 minutes, myself is 5 to 7, and Georgie, how long is the speech?
Let's go with 6 to 8.
6 to 8, okay, that's good. So at 6 minutes, the green light will come on, 7 minutes, the yellow, and then 8, the red light. You have 30 seconds to finish. That's the prepared speeches. On the evaluation, it's 2 to 3 minutes, and then the table topics 1 to 2 minutes, and I'll report the times at the end of the meeting, Ms. Toastmaster.
Awesome. Thank you, Wai Ming. And Wordmaster Georgie?
The word is going to be beneficence. It's a noun. It means doing of good, act of goodness or kindness, charity. So I thought that'd be a good word for today.
Awesome. We'll be posting that word in the chat. Please remember, I know I have to remind myself to use the word of the day, so thank you, Georgie. I will be a ballot counter this morning. I will be sending a Google form link towards the end of the meeting. You'll be filling it out, or if it doesn't work, you can private chat me your votes. We'll be counting up votes for the best table topics master, best evaluator, and best speaker this morning. Thank you. And then I think we have a video master as well. Oh, grammarian, sorry. I will also be grammarian and just tracking use of grammar and reporting towards the end of the meeting, just highlighting any pros and cons of grammar this morning. Let's see. And then I think Harun will be the video master. I don't know if we're, oh yeah, we are recording. Excellent.
Yeah. So good morning, fellow Toastmasters and any honored guests today. I will be your video master. Essentially, I have commanded Zoom to record the proceedings of these meetings. If you do not wish to be recorded, please let me know and I will stop the recording forthwith. This video will be uploaded to a private YouTube channel and the link will be sent out on our WhatsApp group. Okay. Adam Toastmaster.
Awesome. Thank you, Harun. All right. We'll be moving into our, did I miss anybody for roles? Oh, joke master. I don't know if we have a joke towards the end of the meeting. I think we can ask that later on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I didn't see Harun's speech title, but I know he will be speaking for 7 to 9 minutes. So I'll let him introduce the title of the speech and give an introduction. So we'll be moving into our prepared speeches section for the meeting, and we have the 3 speakers lined up. We have Harun, Wai Ming, and Georgie this morning. So Harun, if you want to introduce your speech title and.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Let me just set up some screen sharing.
While Harun is doing that, I just want to highlight he is one of our seasoned speakers, and he has spoken about many different topics that have really just enhanced and improved our lives, but also given us some clarity. So I'm sure he has some wonderful speech prepared this morning. 7 to 9 minutes. So.
Yep. I'm having some confusion in terms of how to share just the slides, but not the speaker notes. Does anybody know how to do that on PowerPoint?
Can you, is your thing able to be displayed just F5 and just show your screen in PowerPoint?
No, but the problem is that it shows all my speaker notes as well, which I don't want to do.
You have to click, I think, display settings. There's like 3, I don't know if you see the 3 circles, but there's one with like the 2 screens, and it has to switch the screen. So, it's kind of weird. When I present it, I have to double click and people already see my notes for like a few seconds.
Okay, So hold on. Let me just do this. Let me just share the screen, then you can show me how to do this. Let me share my screen, share screen. And so do you see my title screen now?
Yeah, so I think yours looks kind of different. Maybe if you use slideshow, there should be like a where you like swap the screen.
Like this?
What?
Oh, okay. That end thing. I don't know, Georgie, if you haven't. That's usually it says display. For me, it says display settings, and then I'll click it.
Yeah,
There you go.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. And yeah, the only downside is that,
Can you not see your notes now?
yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the reason I use two computers.
Okay. Use presented view. Okay. Oh, this is not good.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can be annoying.
Yeah, I should have done the other way around. Okay. Well, my screen, you get to see my screen notes anyway.
Yay.
And you get to see all my listening notes as well. Okay. So I'm going to kick things off. Good morning, everybody. Today, I'm going to be giving you a talk about mind mapping. Mind mapping is my ideas about note-taking in relationships. Steve Jobs famously took a very different approach to thinking about intelligence and being smart. In a speech in 1982, he said that the key to be truly smart isn't deep expertise in any one field, but instead the ability to make unexpected connections from A to B. A lot of being smart, he said, a lot of this being smart is the ability to zoom out. Like in a city, in a building on the 80th floor, and you can see the whole thing, while other people are trying to figure out from A to B, from going to A to B, reading stupid maps, you can see the whole thing. And this raises an inevitable question. How do you develop that ability to get a bird's eye view of a situation in this way? Now, over the years, many people have come up with various ideas on how to think and present their understanding of how the world works using analogies or generalizations from various fields of knowledge. But today I'm going to focus on the intermediate step to reaching those connections. This is a technique called mind mapping. And I've been using mind mapping as a note-taking technique for many years now. I'm going to give you a brief look on why I decided to use mind mapping and how I do it. At the end, I hope that you gain a perspective on how mind mapping works and how you can use it as well. Now, just to give you a historical context, you see, when I started out in my career, I found the transition between being a student and being a professional very hard. I thought that being a good worker is all about getting the right answer. But I slowly and sometimes painfully realized that this wasn't unsustainable. And eventually it began to have diminishing returns. I could not make the mental leap between having the answers to pass an exam and asking those right questions. And one of the things, as I learned more, I gradually decided I wanted to change how I took notes. I used to take notes in a linear fashion. In other words, I would try to capture everything that I saw and heard onto a piece of paper and frantically trying to capture every little detail. And when I reviewed those notes, I realized those notes were practically incomplete. They did not, in a freewheeling conversation that you would often have in a meeting, they would have absolutely no context. And I was just too slow in capturing those multiple conversations going on in a brainstorming meeting or a design meeting that had a lot of missing information. And that was often left unsaid, but communication with no verbal cues. Instead, I decided, when I read about mind mapping, I thought that this was one way where I could capture all this information in a densely packed piece of paper. The idea behind mind mapping is really about engaging more areas of the brain. Basically, the technique is just simply outlining. You take a central idea, you draw a branch, and then you scribble your sub-ideas, and then you keep branching and going out into more details. It's it's exactly the same thing that you would think in an outline in your PowerPoint presentation. But instead of a top-down linear outline, mind mapping uses every part of your brain. It uses the visual and spatial systems to capture those vivid relationships that you would not possible to capture with simple words. Plus, the act of drawing those relationships sort of encodes that information in a muscle memory. The result was that instead of me fumbling with a piece of paper and a notebook and flipping pages, each piece of paper that I drew a mind map on while I listened and scribbled on it produced a small document that had rich, densely packed information. Now, mind mappings, when I started out, you could just simply use one pen, or you could use one piece of paper with it. But you could also use it and make them really colorful and vivid. And this was reminiscent of a very ancient technique called the method of loci. Now, the method of loci was really based on an ancient technique for memorization. And essentially what it did was that people would use physical locations to put different information inside in their mind's eye and draw those lines to them. And essentially, mind mapping is exactly the same thing. You would use different colors, different words, different fonts to emphasize different ideas. It could be conceptualization, characterization, anything, or a generalization, or some kind of chronological information that you wanted to list out. And essentially, it was one way to sort of bridge all of these different relationships between different ideas and draw this visual representation in your head. Essentially, what it was that using your brain's connections, where every neuron would be connected with this new kind of information. Mind maps can be very simple. You can simply this is a mind map that I drew about a template that I use very frequently in the software that I use. It's a mind mapping template and could be simple shapes and colorful ideas. Or like I showed earlier, it could be something really huge with very colorful and vivid colors. There are a multitude of mind mapping software. I used to keep track of all of these softwares, but over the years, I've just settled on one simple tool now. I use Freeplane, which is an open source Java, and I use Dropbox to simply synchronize my different files across all the devices that I work. It works very well, has a very text-based backend representation of the file, so you don't have it to be locked into any proprietary system. If you want, you can go out to all of these online collaborative tools for mind mapping. There's MindMeister, XMind, and whatever, and may have a payment system set up to it, and they'll back it up, and then you get all of these collaborative features. This is a technological solution to it. You can also have mobile versions to it. I use this iPad application called iThoughts to do it. And the reason why I chose it was simply because it ran well on my iPad, plus it could read Freeplane files. But the truth is that the simplest, most easiest way to do mind mapping is to use a simple A4 size paper, and I frequently use this to actually draw up your mind maps, and this full-color ballpoint from Bic. This has actually proved to be a far more effective technique than using any kind of sophisticated software for that. As I said in the beginning, that many people have advanced various ideas on how it takes to be smart. Jobs said that it was the ability to see relationships that others could not see. Bezos, on the other hand, says it's the ability to change your mind as new facts emerge. Elon Musk will say that's skills over credentials. Your criteria for being smart can be different from all three. Mind mapping is a technique to explore your knowledge that frees you from the constraints of language and grammar and allows you to explore what you have learned on your own terms. And I hope you give it a try and share your experiences with us on this forum. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Harun, for that enlightening speech on mind mapping. I do need to get more into that as well. Please take a minute to give feedback to Harun direct in the private chat.
Harun?
Yeah.
Can you do me a favor and make sure oh, never mind. Never mind. I see myself, my other computer. Never mind.
All right. Let's wrap up our comments so we can move forward with the next speaker. All right. And this next speaker has committed to almost speaking every week at the club meetings for 2020. So if you have a goal for 2021, I would say have a similar goal where you've already preemptively signed up in the sign-up sheet to speak. That way you set a deadline and pushed yourself. Wai-Wing will be continuing his Pathways project. Of course, it's a two-part, and he'll be talking about the committee findings and just next steps of this project. So please welcome Speaker Wai-Wing.
Thank you, Hannah. Good morning, fellow Toastmaster. I'm doing this as a continuation of my level 5 project. I just wanted to, so today the agenda looks like this. They're very simple. If I can click the screen. So it has 3 sections in this particular presentation, 5 to 7 minute presentation. I'm going to talk about the progress report of what I've been doing so far with the level 5 project. And then right after that, since the project requires this guidance committee, I'm going to leverage this attendance here, the fellow Toastmaster members as my guidance committee, and you can give me some feedback for 2 minutes. And then I'd like to plan the next workshop. So this is the idea of why would you be interested in my presentation? The whole idea here is a accelerated way of doing a level 5 project that can be done maybe in 2-3 weeks, because the project involves a lot of pieces, as the evaluation would tell you. In any case, so my first section is on the progress. So this is the schedule I outlined the last time I presented last week. And there would be 5 meetings that I have arranged. I finished the first 2. In fact, last week, with the help of Harun, Gautam, and Jose, it really helped me to complete the workshop. And so we had 4 people, including myself, attending, and I'll summarize that report. And that's what I'm going to do today. And then I still have 2 other meetings. Ideally, we can organize another workshop today, but if not today, maybe sometime soon. And then I would do a final presentation at the end. So that's the progress. And in the workshop last week, we had a 30-minute workshop on Zoom, not too long. And I talk about the idea of a number of things, and then we have several discussions in that 30 minutes. One of the things I suggested is focus on the 5 to 7 minute speeches, because the idea is then you have a limited time to present the information that you need. And then the whole workshop was trying to find information to do different speeches. And since I had to go this year of doing a speech as often as possible, hopefully once a week, but not quite, the idea is, where do I find the content? I look for contents in news, because everything I read can be presented as information. The only thing is I have to pick the right news that's relevant for the members here. And then there might be other things I can add in as well. I can add in parts of books, so I can add in personal stories along with the news. And primarily I go to Google News to get the information, but then there are other sources. I don't want just one source of information. I wanted other newspapers and so on throughout the world to validate the information that I have. I do want to present factual information. So that's what I presented. And then we have a number of discussions on the idea of writing out a speech, when do we practice before the speech, and a number of things like that. And my suggestion was that practice as often as you can. That's why you want to do a speech every week or every other week, because the more you practice, the easier it gets to present. That's the way it works. It's like doing a muscle. It's like exercising. It's exercising your speaking muscle. So my only suggestion is speak often, and then it gets easier. You don't even have to think about too much about writing out things. It just much easier. So that is the progress report. And then the next 2 minutes, I'd like to ask members here who are my guidance committee to provide feedback for me, because the guidance committee is to look at what I've done and say, can I improve on anything? What should I do for the final report? What should I do for the next workshop? So any feedback that you guys might have. I know this is sort of like sudden and it's hard to come up with feedback for really a quick duration. So I just want to go back to the schedule. So this is an attempt to do a level 5 project in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks. Is this too much? Is this like too accelerated? Because it's supposed to have 5 guidance committee meetings, and I'm using every speech as a guidance committee meeting. So that's the idea. And for a Toastmaster project, I think it's all okay, yeah. And if you have done project before and you just want to get the project done, I think this is okay. If I don't hear any objection, I'm assuming it's okay. But if you really want to do a real project and you want to actually show real results, then certainly you want your guidance committee to provide feedback offline. So that's the idea. And my question now is, could we organize a workshop soon? Could be today, could be next few weeks, whenever you might be available. Would any of you be available today? 30 minutes on Zoom. Jose?
I would.
Yeah.
Hannah?
Yeah.
That's good. So when would you like to do it? Do you want Harut, do you want to do it right after this meeting for 34 minutes? Do you want to do it later today or next week?
If you can do it right after the meeting, I think that would be a good time.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
It makes it so
Okay.
quick. So that's what we're gonna do. We can just hold on to the Zoom if that's okay, and then we just finish that workshop for 30 minutes. And the workshop will consist of, I present briefly one slide, and then we have some discussions. And the content of the workshop is about organizing speech content. So that's essentially what I have presented. I presented the progress of so far of this project, had some attempt at getting the guidance committee feedback, and then organizing the workshop number 2. So that's my speech, Ms. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Wai-Ming. And I know I have to jump on a call right after this meeting, but I may be able to catch the end of it. So I would also, if possible, if we can live stream it on our Facebook page, that would be great. But maybe that's a future project that we can all do Facebook Live at our next Toastmaster workshop. So that'll be in the works. Please take a minute to give feedback direct to Wai-Ming. All right, let's wrap up our comments and also get prepared for our third and final speaker for this morning, who jumped in, which is awesome, showed some taking initiative towards the end of the year, who's Georgie. Georgie in the last few weeks has been sharing some best practices and tips to improve our financial well-being and our financial life. So I'm curious what she has to share this morning. And please welcome our third speaker of the day, Georgie.
Good morning, everyone. We have talked previously about finances, so today I'd like to talk on the subject of family wealth. The last time I spoke, I talked about donor-advised funds with respect to charitable giving. You might start thinking about charitable giving and think about some of these vehicles available for you towards the end of the year, and then think that maybe it would be a good idea if you could extend your beneficence, not just to people to various charities, but also to the people in your family by maybe sharing the tools of wealth that you've learned with them. And as you do that, you might start thinking about other ways in which your family can work together to help not just others, but the current generation and possibly even future generations. Now, with that, I would like to point out this all-in podcast that I like to listen to. It's these four gentlemen here. They are all multimillionaires doing quite well in the tech industry. One I talked about previously was Chatmath, who's really big into the SPAC area, SPAC IPOs. They were talking about this article that came out just quite recently, about a little less than a month ago at the New York Times. It's about rich kids who are inheriting tens of millions and more dollars, and they're actually quite disturbed by their inheritance, so much so that they are working very hard to get rid of the money, to give it away to different charities that they're concerned about. I found the topic really interesting, not because of the New York Times article itself, but due to the way these gentlemen reacted to it. And Chatmath's reaction was, I thought, the most interesting. It seemed the most frustrated and maybe even a little bit angry about it. See, from his point of view, he originally grew up in Sri Lanka to about the age of 6 until he emigrated to Canada and eventually to the United States. He's worked very hard all his life in order to amass the education, intellectual knowledge, and money that he has. And the idea that his heirs might in the future look at his contributions and more importantly what he did as his way of life as somehow awful is just very disturbing to him. So when you are thinking about this concept of wealth distribution over generations, there's a concept called the third generation curse. The idea in the United States is expressed with the concept of shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. This concept is shared across the world, the idea being that the founder of the wealth starts off as a manual labor, works very, very hard, and then amasses it, and then the next generation kind of enjoys it, and the generation after that kind of loses it. It's repeated across the world in different ways. In England, they say clogs to clogs. Japan, rice paddy to rice paddy. China has perhaps the most negative way to look at it, which is wealth never survives 3 generations. Now, not to slam the Chinese, but I'm not sure I completely agree with that but it is extraordinarily difficult. I will admit that even Adam Smith in his book Wealth of Nations in 1776 pointed out that despite in England all of the laws that were put together so that wealthy families and royals could have money go from one generation to the next, whether that was with titles or estates were entailments, so that basically went from the father to the eldest son. Despite all of that, they still couldn't quite manage to keep the money together. Well, how about today? How are we doing with that? Well, nothing has really changed with that. According to a survey done by the Williams Group and highlighted in Money Magazine, wealthy families tend to lose their wealth 90% by the third generation. The reasons why are maybe not what you would expect. The three top reasons are that basically people think it's impolite to talk about money. So it's very difficult to teach the next generation about money. Likewise, the older generation worries that their children become lazy and entitled if they just receive a big pot of money. The other issue is that they also fear the family's financial information might leak out. Now, the actual problems, as you can see, some people might think it's due to poor investments or taxes or anything like that. But as you can see from the chart on the left-hand side, actually 3% only is lost that way. Most of it is due to a breakdown in family communications and trust, the heirs not being properly prepared, and the family not having an overall mission for how they envision that they are going to transfer the wealth from generation to generation. So let's start with some basic definitions. Maybe the concept of what is wealth and what is it to be rich. According to the Charles Schwab's annual Modern Wealth Survey from last year, what you need to be wealthy? About $2.27 million, right? That's pretty simple, straightforward. But actually this varies across. As you get older and get more money, the bar for what we consider wealth changes over time. If you're a Gen Zer, you don't even need $1 million to be wealthy. Well, if you're a boomer, you think you need at least 2.6 million. So instead of this weird definition that varies from person to person, maybe we just focus on the concept of being financially comfortable. And what exactly is it to be financially comfortable? Once again, going back to this Charles Schwab survey, only 28% of Americans think it's a specific dollar amount. 72%, the majority, think it has to do with the way people live their lives. What is it to be financially uncomfortable? Now that's a little easier for Americans to figure out. 59% live paycheck to paycheck. 44% cannot keep up with their bills and payments and have credit card debt. 46% have thought about financial goals, but they have no written plan. 26% have no plan at all. Why? 46% of these people don't feel they have enough money to even put together a formal plan. 18% think it's too complicated, and 13% ironically don't have time to develop a plan. But with the people who do have plans, about 28% of Americans, 63% of those feel far more financially stable with this plan. And those that do plan are able to pay their bills much better, have emergency funds, save and invest, and don't carry bad debt or credit card balances. So what we're going to do for our next talk is we're going to continue on this concept of how to do it, including planning for family wealth. So what we're going to do, expect the best, plan for the worst, and prepare to be surprised. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie. And let's take a minute to give Georgie feedback direct in the chat. All right, let's wrap up our comments, and then we'll be moving into the next phase of the meeting, which is the evaluation part of the meeting, where we'll have General Evaluator Jose call upon the evaluators this morning.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster. I'll be the general evaluator for this morning. This is the phase where we get feedback from our peers in regards to how we did our speech. And the first speech will be with Haroon, and I will be evaluating his speech. Again, a very interesting speech, Haroon, on a different way of thinking. And when you presented your PowerPoint, I was looking forward to what you're going to say, because mind mapping is a very common, I've heard the term before, and the major draw to your presentation is the very concept of mind mapping. So that's, I just want to give you feedback that that's my first thought. And then there's a lot of technical difficulties we have to go through, right? That's something we have to be prepared for. As far as the dynamics of the presentation, I liked it because first of all, there's a lot of beneficence items to it, right? I can hear it. You started with a quote, and the quote had a very nice motivational ring to it, but maybe a little bit more expanding it to how you personally, how the concept of mind mapping helped you out. As far as the speech dynamics, I saw a lot of vocal variety with you. You had gestures. But I would maybe put some emphasis on key points. Your cadence was okay. There were some points where I did not. You went too fast, and you have to. I think when you said the specific software that you use, people want to hear those. So you have to say it, and you may have to spell it out, the actual software, because that's where I was like, oh, I want to use that, because it seems your speech is fit for selling something, right? Selling like a software. So if you think of it that way, then the actual software is very important. Oh, there's also other things in your speech. You may want to add the downside of mind mapping, what it entails, a little bit more into how the software is used, a little bit really fast, and how you use it, maybe a few click points of how it's used. And that kind of gives you, it's a 5 to 7 minute presentation, so you can't be expanding it too much, but maybe a few clicks, that'll be good. And so overall, a very good speech. You covered the key points. I like the part where it gives you the key phrase I liked in your presentation was the non-linear fashion of organizing your thoughts. And if you expanded more on that's also good. So because that was, to me, that was a key point. Again, overall, a good speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
So our next evaluator will be for Wyming's presentation, and that will be Georgie. Georgie, take it away. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jose. Wyming, thank you for giving a wonderful presentation this morning. It's really interesting to see this massive project that you're pulling together over a few weeks. I thought you did a really good job when you started the speech off, kind of reminding us of that this is a long, ongoing project that you're working on. We're just in one step. You start off with a summary that you're giving as your progress report. You also explain why we should be interested in your speech, which is always important, because otherwise we're going to be listening and a little confused. What is in it for me, basically? I'd like that you started off with the timeline, explained what you wanted. You talked about how your project is picking out different subjects in which you can give speeches on, and that you're focusing on getting content out of news, specifically in your case, Google News. You're also focused on making sure you get the right news and putting in some additional information from books, stories, that sort of thing. You had really good hand gestures and facial gestures, which I thought you did really well in giving. You also, once again, I like the way that you made things more human. You were kind of laughing at parts of it, like when you showed that really complex slide, you kind of laughed and said, oh yeah, it's very complex. So I thought that was better so that we could get more drawn into the story. You had a lot of good vocal variation. That's something I think very important first thing in the morning to keep everyone engaged when our brains still maybe haven't had the caffeine get into it quite yet. The other thing that you did that I thought was really good, you use really good phrases like exercise your speaking muscles, and you conflated it with exercise and going to the gym and things like that. I thought that was really good. You gave a very good call to arms, very clear thing of what you were trying to do. Now, a couple of things that I would suggest you might want to do is, this is a very complicated topic you're trying to do. You might want to send out an email ahead of time or messaging and let people kind of know what it is you'd like to get from us during the talk. Encouraging people to talk while you're speaking is a little unusual. So if you want that done, maybe you want to say that in the very beginning that you want us to interrupt partway through later in your talk. Also, you might want to use table topics. Since I noticed you are a table topics master today, you might want to use that as a way to get information from people, maybe when they're more used to giving you information. Other than that, I thought you did a really good job with this very complicated speech. Looking forward to the next one. Thanks.
Thank you, Georgie. Thank you for that feedback. And now we move on to our next evaluator, which will be Hannah. She'll be evaluating Georgie. Thank you.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters, and of course, Georgie, the speaker that I will be evaluating. I can probably not pronounce this word, but beneficence. You gave us you blessed us with an opportunity to learn about family wealth, right? Which is it can be a very broad topic. I think overall, in terms of your body, you did start out with kind of gaining our interest with this generational curse, right? Like wealth does not make it to 3 generations. And the fact that you highlighted different kind of cultures and different kind of backgrounds, I find that very interesting because you would think that it's only like a US or USA kind of ordeal, but it is actually worldwide where maybe 3 generations will not, the 3rd or 4th generation may not experience the same wealth if somebody had acquired wealth earlier in those generations. So I found that to be very highly interesting and a peak of interest where you really pulled in into your speech, kind of the audience into your speech. You shared some stats, which I think you explained very well. Statistics, I don't do very well with it, but you're highly technical. So drawing from your technical background, I believe that you did go over all the statistics quite well and explain those in clean and beautiful slides. Your slides were mostly simple and then also had data on them, which was easy to read and easy to follow for the audience. You cited some credible resources, especially in the financial services industry. So you did hallmark these kind of companies and where you found this data and where you find this resources, which added to credibility to support your overall speech. In terms of clarity, your speaking you're always high, you're always a clear speaker. Interest in the topic, I would just want to know why you chose the topic. Sometimes it is often lost in these financial speeches of, hey, I experienced this, or I started reading this book, or somebody told me the story, or maybe I met this wealthy person, or somebody tipped me off about this and I wanted to learn more about finances versus something more technical. So just a miss on the why you chose the topic. In terms of vocal variety, your tone was very interested, like you seemed very interested in your topic, which I think translated to the audience also being translated to your speech. Eye contact is one thing I can also work on as well in Zoom, but I think your eye contact was overall pretty strong. And gestures, I know like it's very hard to like use the whole frame, but I feel like you do still convey that you're engaged in without using like hand gestures. So I think your body language does show that you have a high level of interest in your topic. Audience comfort level, I know we've all been hearing your speeches about finances, so we're kind of already warmed up to the topic. So I think that made it quite easy. In terms of the topic overall, I would say you kind of use like technical way that you explain things. Sometimes what works for people and relating to their emotions is telling a story. So, or a personal anecdote. So if you don't have a personal anecdote, maybe incorporating a story or highlighting, hey, there's this family, or maybe I read this somewhere, or there's this person, like maybe they came from wealth, but they no longer have wealth. They say that facts tell, but stories sell. So like people are engaged with the emotions, and that really get them bought in if you just added that in, incorporated. But overall, I would say also adding in at the end, like, hey, if you like this stuff, you know, check out more. Here's an article. There's one that I always think about, which is the greatest wealth transfer. It's kind of what's going on right now in the economy with like millennials and baby boomers. So just citing different resources, articles, books, maybe modern books people can check out if they want to learn more. It's kind of like, I forget, Lamar from Reading Rainbow. If you like about it, read it in a book. Don't take my word for it. Read this book. But overall, Georgie, thank you for this great speech.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. So give the host back give it back to the Toastmaster for the rest of the meeting. Hannah, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And we will be moving into the last portion of our meeting, which is table topics, in which we will have Wai-Ming introduce the table topics questions and or pick or select or have anybody volunteer to answer the questions. Thank you, Wai-Ming.
Thank you, Hannah. Good morning, fellow Toastmasters. Today's topic is holiday cheer. So I'm going to ask some questions related to holiday cheers for families, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and strangers. And Hannah talked about providing holiday cheers to strangers. And so the first question to Haroon is, you know, in the past, we give Christmas cards, gifts, gift cards, gatherings, all types of things. What is your way of providing cheers to family, friends, and so on in the COVID era? And how could you be beneficent about that?
Well, well, thank you, Wai-Ming. The question is, how do I provide beneficence in the COVID area, the COVID arena? Well, this is going to be a first for like many Americans today, being in the COVID era and knowing what a pandemic does is going to be something that we have to forge new traditions, new ideas, and new practices. So here's my plan and my family's plan for how to spell Christmas cheer. Normally, what we would do is that, as some of you probably realize, I don't really celebrate Christmas as a holiday. But for me, the main highlight of Christmas was to go out and have Chinese food because, well, you know, those are the only restaurants that are open on Christmas Day. And so this year, of course, we're not going to be doing that. But we do plan to get Chinese food for my family here, and we're going to order it in. I might go pick it up. So we might actually do that. And the idea is that I'm going to try and convince some other friends of mine to do the same thing. And we are planning to spread that Christmas cheer by, you know, setting up a Zoom channel and having dinner together with friends and family and sharing whatever food. It'll be great if they get Chinese food. I don't know, some people may not like the idea of it, and a lot of my friends think that's kind of weird, but I think it's somehow it just feels the thing to do, and just to sort of keep up with our traditions for Christmas Day, for the Christmas holiday day dinner. So that's going to be what my plan is for how to spread beneficence, Christmas beneficence on Christmas Day. Let's see how that works out. I'll report back probably next week.
Thank you, Haroon. So I'm gonna make a guess. Hannah, you have a pet?
I do, but not around me right now.
That's okay. That's okay. So how do you provide holiday cheers to your pet?
Thank you, I mean, and I did a little bit of holiday shopping. Of course, there's just immediate family that I was going to see, and I didn't want to come over or have people come over our house, just immediate family, empty-handed. So I did pick up like a little things. But more commonly, I feel like people's pets have become more like their family. So I realized everyone in their family has a dog or a cat. So now I was inclined to also buy their pet a gift. So I couldn't forget about my own pet. Of course, my husband was like, you got all these dog treats and cat toys, but did you get anything for your own cat? So I grew up with a cat, Homer. He died at about 15 years old. I was surprised he lived that long because he had a death wish, and I think he went through all 9 lives, falling off of fences, almost getting hit by cars. So I didn't think I'd get a new cat. So we got a cat a couple of years ago, Jessie. So we had Homer. I had Homer for 15 years, and then Jessie we've only had for 2 or 3 years now. So she's almost like still a kitten, kind of has that kitten mindset. So my husband was like, why didn't you get anything for your cat? So I went out again and I got her a pack of kitty toys, and the ones with the feathers and the bright colors are her favorite versus the little mouse or squeaker ones or anything with the bells. So she likes anything with feathers. So I think she likes birds. She also likes to watch birds out of the window and to watch birds out of the door. If we open up the door, she'll be curious what birds are outside. But I think pets are like family now. So if you have people in your family that have pets, you better get them something too. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Hannah. Jose, so tell us about the difference, or which one do you prefer between gifts and gift cards?
Gifts and gift cards.
Yeah.
That's a very good distinction. It seems like gift cards are the less appealing kind of gift, because all it does is give you financial it gives you the financial reward, but you have to think about how you're going to use it. So, but there's also gifts, right? Gifts is more personalized, but there's also a downside on that one, because when you give a gift, it may not be what the person wants. I think the way you give it matters a lot. I think the way, and for example, sometimes you go through the history of the different ways, the different gifts that you've given, and you say, oh, okay, this time we're going to do it this way, kind of thing. So you could put that element of variety in your gift giving, and say a gift card and then a gift also, right? And so it's not just what you're giving, also it's the way you give it also. That's my thoughts. So if we keep it again, you could have it cheerful giving, a more, and a feeling of beneficence, right, when you do it that way. And so those are my thoughts. Yep.
That's great. Thank you. And one more question, if that's okay. So, Gautam, how do you spread cheers for friends and family that are remote, far away from you?
Morning, fellow Toastmasters, and thank you, Tabletop Master. So how do I spread cheers with friends and family who are in a remote location or remotely? We do conduct a Secret Santa competition kind of stuff. No one knows from whom they are getting a gift. And for the beneficence of Christmas, we'll conduct online. So we'll plan it. We used an app called Elvisor. So to draw Secret Santa for our friends, and we plan the game tomorrow. So by end of today, everyone would have received their gift, and we are opening it tomorrow, connecting it over Zoom call. We are planning to have a competition and games online. That's how I and my friends spread cheers during this pandemic era.
That's great. Do we have time for one more, or is this it?
I think go ahead just with one more.
Okay, well, so Georgie, you're the last person. Same type of question. How do you provide cheer for friends and families and colleagues that are remote, far away,
Right.
not local?
Okay. There is this ancient tradition that people have done in the past, although I don't think anyone does it anymore. It's called sending Christmas cards. There's this concept called paper. For people who have been born in the last millennia, there's a substance that comes from fibrous plants called paper, and often this paper is decorated with cute images, but they're fixed images. It's not like a GIF or anything. It doesn't move. But you can then write using, let's see, like a crayon or something that leaves an imprint or mark on this paper substance, and you can then send it out via, there's this thing called the US Post Office. It's like FedEx, basically. Anyway, so you send it, and people receive it in something called a mailbox. It's outside their house. They can bring it in, they can look at it, and then hopefully it will make them feel better for the season. And often when they get this, they will then send you an email or a phone call, because nobody actually sends Christmas cards anymore. So that's what I do.
Thank you. So I'm gonna return control back to the general evaluator, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Let's go through the various duty masters for their reports. Let's ask for Wai-Ming, our timer.
Let's miss the general evaluators for the prepared speeches. Harun spoke for 8 minutes and 9 seconds. I spoke for 7 minutes and 38 seconds. Georgie 7:39. In the evaluation, Jose spoke for 3:04. Georgie 2:55. Hannah 3:38. In the table topics, Harun spoke for 2 minutes. Hannah, actually 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Hannah 134, Jose 124, Gautam 106, Georgie 135. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. And so our next report will be our grammarian, which is Hannah.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Wai-Ming, there's only a few ones I highlighted. Wai-Ming used factual information, which I think information should be factual, but I mean, you can either change that up or leave it as is. I think it's okay. Georgie, Jose, and then there's a couple other people, but I didn't write it down. But I think it's this whole use of adverbs, which is almost like a common intensifier. We use really and very, 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 and really, really. I know I default to that as well, but sometimes really can perceived in modern language as like a question, like you're questioning, like, do you really like somebody, or is that really like the case? So sometimes the way that we use really instead of an adverb. So just being mindful of using very and really, those kind of adverbs. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Our next report will be from our word master, which is Georgie.
Today's word of the day was used by everyone. I recorded that Jose and Harun used it at least twice, but well done. Yay.
Okay.
Good, very good. So, do we have a joke for today?
Give me a
Still
minute.
have a
Okay.
counter report I
Okay,
have.
I'll get back to you. Our counter?
Sure. So I noticed a few R's, not more than 10 for everyone. Harun, the count is between 5 to 8. Hannah, less than 5. Georgie, Jose, Wai-Ming, and myself, Aaron is less than 5.
Thank you. So, Annie, we have a joke for Harun.
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Joke.
Maybe we can start doing duties.
Okay, let me pull it up here. All right, you guys can see this one. I signed up to be a speaker, but there's room. Or I could be a backup here. Let me move myself to backup just in case. Oh, actually, no, I won't be able to. I will not. There's a possibility I may not be able to make it to next week's meeting, but I will find out. I'll just sign up as backup. And then we have Wai Ming signed up as speaker 3, so we have 2 speaker slots. Does anybody want to be Toastmaster for next week?
I can be Toastmaster.
Her? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
I'll be Toastmaster.
What
I
about
can be
Table Topics Master?
Well, I can be speaker.
Speaker? Okay.
And I can also be table topics if we need it.
Okay. Do we have any evaluators?
I'll be evaluator. Right.
Jose?
Mhm.
Yeah. You can put me down as an evaluator as well.
Okay. Let me make sure. I think we can rearrange this later on. What about GE? Does anybody want to volunteer for GE?
Yeah, I could be GE as Wai Ming.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Should we take a picture before we get to Joke Master? Or?
I
You're
got a
good?
joke.
Okay.
I got a joke. So a couple purchased an old home from 2 elderly sisters. And the wife, once they moved in, the wife became very concerned about the house's lack of insulation. The husband declared, if they could live here all those years, so can we. And they finally decided to pull the trigger and buy the house. And one early winter night, the temperature plunged below 0, and they woke up to find the interior walls covered with frost. Both the husband and wife were very concerned. And the next day, the husband called the sisters to ask how they kept the house warm. And after a brief conversation, he hung up. He went to his wife and muttered, for the past 30 years, they've gone to Florida for the winter.
Okay, thank you for that joke. And so, quick evaluation of the meeting. We started out slow, so we have to make up for that towards the end. A few technical difficulties as far as the evaluations. I have to be more organized in my evaluation. As far as George's evaluation of Wai Ming, maybe a few more recommendations, maybe a list recommendation of more detail, asking Wai Ming for more detail in terms of maybe a simple yes or no questions during the feedback phase. Hannah, yeah, very good evaluation also. Maybe a little bit more on the, oh, I like the part where she was eliciting special personal experiences from Georgie in terms of adding more to, as far as adding more to her speech. So overall, but the meeting still worked out, still went well, and so we're looking forward to the next meetings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. And before we announce the winners, let's take a picture real quick. 1, 2. Okay, we'll take a couple. Awesome. And we did have some landslide victories today, so please give a drum roll, a round of applause to Best Table Topics Master this morning. Best Table Topics Master, Gautam. Gautam, congratulations. All right. You can let people know on your holiday Zoom that you were the Best Table Topics Master this week. Awesome. And for Best Evaluator, please give a drum roll, round of applause. Best Evaluator, Georgie, this morning. Georgie, congratulations. Awesome. And for best speaker this morning, we had 3 very experienced, highly experienced fierce competition speakers this morning. So out of the fierce competition, please give a drum roll, round of applause to Georgie. Georgie winner. Awesome. Congrats, guys.
Okay.
All right. We've got 1 more week to duke it out, so get your speeches prepared. Final week of the year. And we will see you guys next week. Have a productive holiday and a happy holidays, whatever you do to celebrate. I definitely may want to order Chinese myself now. That sounds like a good idea. And I think you guys.
Same here, yeah.
So,
We're going to
go ahead,
continue
Mike.
with the workshop.